Welcome to our lunchtime keynote presentation today. My name is Mary Ann Morey. I'm the district consultant with the State Library for Central District, and with me is my colleague Samantha Bowers. I think all of you know her as our continuing education consultant. I am thrilled to be facilitating this particular session because our presenters are both with the Iowa State University Extension. For those of you that don't know what Extension is, every state has Extension at the land-grant universities, which in Iowa is Iowa State. And the purpose of Extension basically is to support thriving communities and develop youth to be leaders tomorrow. I love Extension. I was active with it in my home state of Indiana. I cannot say enough good things about Extension. And we have two presenters, Dr. John Lawrence, who is currently Vice President and Extension and Outreach at Iowa State University. He oversees pretty much the whole program, I believe, and including 1,100 faculty and staff. And also Dr. Constance Beecher, who is Associate Professor at the School of Education and at Iowa State University. And Dr. Beecher's background is early intervention and research and education with an emphasis on language and literacy. Perfect for a group of librarians today. Welcome to both of you, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mary Ann. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today. And looking at what's in the chat box, a lot of my work here is done because it sounds like many of you have great partnerships already with Extension at the local level. I want to share just a little bit about, maybe a little bit about our history as a land grant, but more importantly, talk about partnerships or potential partnerships that we look forward to working with you on. And then I'm going to turn it over to Connie to get in some of the specifics around literacy and early childhood reading that is a major thrust of her work that we are carrying out throughout the state as well. So hopefully you're able to see my screen here now.
Looks great.
All right, thank you. So as I said, a little bit of history. Iowa was the first state in the nation to accept the terms of the Morrill Act that established the land-grant universities. And this was, land-grant is a literal term. The nation owned land following the Louisiana Purchase, and they gave land to states in order to start or found these universities for the people, for the public. And it was a bold experiment at the time because most universities were private and much like the European model, but this funded higher education for the sons and daughters of farmers and mechanics. But it was really that commitment to the people that was a key part of that. I was the first in the nation to accept this in 1862, and Iowa State University was at land grant. We were also the birthplace of the extension idea, and that started in 1903. We put a professor on a train and sent him to Northwest Iowa because farmers in Northwest Iowa said, hey, well, that research you're doing on seed corn production and selection of seeds, will that work here in my county? And that really, started the extension concept of taking the research to the people. And of course, today we're doing that not only in person with hands-on demonstrations, but virtually. So we do a lot of virtual education, much like we're doing here today. So a long history of working with the people of Iowa. We're a fully integrated university. Our missions of education, research, and extension and outreach work closely together. We take the discoveries from the laboratory and put them in a practical sense and deliver them to the people. We take the questions we hear from the people back to the researchers, and we incorporate those into the classrooms as well. So it all works together. Our vision and mission, probably much the same as what you as local libraries may have. Our vision is to advance the land grant value by engaging all Iowans in solving today's problem and preparing for a thriving future. If you think of the mission, much the same, and we build a strong Iowa by engaging all Iowans in research, education, extension experiences to address current emerging real life challenges. Certainly the end of both those phrases, the last 2 or 3 years put a new twist on things. What what was the problem in 2020? You know, it was working around COVID. It was here. How do we keep people safe, but still carry on? You know, what was an emerging real life challenge? And so we've been there through it all. We continue to work during that period of time, but try to do it as safely as possible. The other key word there is really around engaging and engaging all Iowans. And so it's not just me talking at you. Hopefully we're listening. We're embedded in those communities. We're there. We've literally been in those communities for over 100 years. Our last county office formed in 1919. So unlike, you know, some grant programs that may be there for 3 years, the grant ends and it goes away, we're still there. We live in those communities. We walk up and down Main Street. We talk to the people much like you do, and we're engaging Iowans to fulfill our vision and mission. The goal around all Iowans is Iowa is changing. You know these statistics as well as I. Over 25% of the K-12 population are kids of color. And how do we better engage them and their parents, not only for today, but as they become, you know, our society fully integrated in our society of the future. So that's a major challenge we continue to work on as well. Our goal and how we go about reaching a strong Iowa is through partnerships. That's in our strategic plan, partnerships like with local libraries. It's organization to organization, so I appreciate the Iowa Association of Libraries reaching out to us, but it's also person to person and those long-term relationships, whether that's with a researcher that you've done some work with or one of our faculty, or it's at the local level. You know who to call in the county office when you want to do something on gardening or have master gardeners help the grounds around the library. And I was recently at an in-service or professional development session with Connie's group in human sciences, and I asked a simple question, you know, pull out your phone, and if I said contact organization X, how do you have that stored? And oftentimes it was by the person who led organization X. It's that people-to-people connection that's really important. We talk about being the 99 county campus of Iowa State University. There's actually 100 county offices. Pottawatomie County has an East Pottawatomie and a West Pottawatomie. And each of those districts has 9 elected council members. You know, think about the back of your ballot, if you will. Every 2 years, we elect either 4 or 5 of those council members, and they have responsibilities for the local extension programming. They have taxing authority, so your property tax helps pay for extension and outreach at the local level. Those elected officials have oversight responsibilities for that and the staff they hire. We partner with them as Iowa State University around the programming, the content, with our specialists and our faculty. But we also have regional directors. And if you look at the map there, those numbers, you know, and they'll have typically a 4-county responsibility. That's an Iowa State regional director that works with those counties to help provide supervisory responsibilities, help them with budgeting and HR issues, help them with the program selection. And so we're working in tandem with them on an ongoing basis. Our 4 program areas around ag and natural resources, community economic development, the human sciences, and our 4-H youth development. Many of you are familiar with that. A lot of people, when you say extension, they think farmers and 4-H. Yet we have a lot of programming in the human sciences area that Connie will touch on, working in nutrition, health and well-being. Mental health is an area we've really grown in recently, but with leadership from human sciences. Family finance, preparing for retirement, preparing for college, whatever it may be. And one of the key things that I think that sets us apart from a lot of organizations out there is we are about building capacity. We're not wanting to do things for people. We're wanting to help people help themselves, be better consumers of information, much like a library would be, but help them be able to make decisions for themselves. And we do this through educational programming, train the trainer type workshops. We do certification and licensure in some areas. Childcare is one of those that we are kind of the go-to place. We issued over 60,000 certificates around childcare last year. We're volunteers. You think of our master gardeners in 4-H. We have something like 7,000 volunteers around the state. So how to coordinate with them, work with them, think about kind of background checks as we think about keeping our people safe and such. We have expertise and experience in that. And then providing timely and relevant information is also key to what we do. As I said, we're really trying to reach out to new audiences, underrepresented audiences. We try to be local and flexible in matching up with the needs of a community. We're trying to build staff capacity that reflects the communities that we serve. That's an ongoing challenge, but we have efforts to try to do that. A lot of training around cultural competency, navigating differences, coming together around racial understanding. Not only doing that for our staff, but doing it for communities, doing it for companies, doing it for city government as their community changes and there's new cultures and new people. How do we become a more welcoming community? And we have expertise in that training. So let's talk briefly here about some partnership opportunities. I saw a lot of them already listed in the chat, so many of you are doing that already, but certainly our youth program, 4-H youth development. STEM is one of our major fields. Computer science and robotics are areas that we work in. It's not just livestock and sewing. It's the STEM fields. Think photography. If you look at creative arts, photography is the largest number of exhibits for fairs across the state. That's a big area we do. Civic engagement, communication, and leadership, and developing young people skills to be leaders of tomorrow. The Water Rocks program. This is our building a culture of conservation. And we do a lot with schools across the state, but over the last 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, we've had partnered with 74 different libraries since 2013, bringing a fun experience to kids around understanding the watershed, understanding how to protect their water, how to be knowledgeable of it, but also how to make a difference in their home, in their community, and so on. Around the community economic development area, facilitating community visioning, strategic planning. We've got a great data portal, a one-stop shop on demographics. If you want to know, for a given town or county or congressional district, what's the, socioeconomic information, employment, age, all of those things, we've got it all in one spot. So it's a great resource to send people to. Or as you're preparing a grant or doing something for your community, that's a place to find the information. We also have a Leading Communities program where work with a cohort of leaders in a community that come together, go through the training together, but take on a project for their community together as a cohort. In agriculture and natural resources, that's where the master gardeners reside. We've got, hundreds of master gardeners across the state. They contribute something like 200,000 hours of volunteer work across the state of Iowa. Community gardens, that's as local foods and gardening and nutrition has grown. We do a lot of work in community gardens. And then consumer horticulture. What's wrong with my houseplant? What's wrong with the tree in my yard? Why do I have a dead spot in my yard? We're the go-to people on that information as well. And those would all be things that, we can either be a resource for you as a librarian, and you guys are all about providing resources. Keep these in mind. And with that, I'm going to stop and I'll turn it over to Connie.
Okay, thank you, John. All right, is everybody seeing my screen here? Great. So as Dr. Lawrence said, we in human sciences have a lot of program areas. We do early childhood. We have programs on mental health. We have programs on food and nutrition. We have programs on parenting and relationships and programs on aging. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our literacy programs and how I kind of think about literacy and some examples of places where I've partnered with libraries. So in my work, I think about literacy from a public health kind of standpoint, where just like when we are thinking about a public health topic like flu prevention, I don't know why that was hard to say, or smoking cessation, we think about a sort of a multi-tiered kind of way to approach that challenge. And so with literacy, I have programs that are at the population sort of universal level, and these are big programs that are focused on getting the message out about the importance of reading to children early and the importance of access to books. Then at the community level, we have group programs where people are coming together to learn more specifics maybe on about reading with their children and specific strategies. And then at the individual or targeted level, that's where we have programs about that are targeted to a particular group or a subgroup. We're trying to really make a difference with a particular group of people. So I'm going to give you some examples of each of these. So at the universal level, we're really talking about a big picture message about the importance of reading and books to foster health and connection in communities. And typically my audience is younger, the early childhood area, but in this realm, we're really talking to everyone. So, if we want kids to be readers, we need adults to be readers too. So there is that whole big lifespan. And in that category, we have some programs that you might have heard of. Read Across Iowa, we're in our third year now. Excuse me. And I'm going to give you an example of some of the materials for that. Story walks you all might have done in your community. This is something that we really started doing more of during COVID as a way to do sort of family events that were socially distant and outside. And then some of you may have checkout STEM backpacks in your library. And that was a project where we really wanted to get STEM materials into especially parts of the state where people didn't necessarily have access to things like museums or science centers. And the last time I sort of did an informal check, we had backpacks in 44 libraries, give or take. So Read Across Iowa, basically we partner with the Iowa Agricultural Literacy Foundation as a way to celebrate reading during the month of March. So March is Read Across America, which is a campaign that was created by the Teachers Association, the National Educators Association. And I thought it would be a good tie-in to have celebrations during that month, but make it all about Iowa. And of course, agriculture is a big part of our economy and a big part of what we do in Iowa, but it's also very relatable because as Dr. Lawrence says, everybody eats, right? We have our food system. And so it's something that everyone can relate to. And what we do is gather 1,000 books through a variety of grants and sort of contributions from Extension and 4-H. And we create kits that teachers and educators can request. They get a packet of books and activities that go with the books, and then we host events. We do a lot of course, when we were doing this virtually during COVID, there was a lot of virtual events where we had people, being very creative and doing online readings. You can see in this picture, there was somebody who was doing a farm tour while reading a book on the My Family's Farm, and working with Extension. They worked with libraries and schools to do all of these kind of events, and then accessed those virtual events as well. We did surveys after Read Across Iowa, and what we found was students were really kind of motivated and excited to read. They really liked that connection to agriculture. Some of the specific comments that we got, there was sort of a group of people that had not had a lot of experience with agriculture who were learning some new things. But then there were also groups of people who do have a lot of, and they just like seeing that representation in their school too. As well as, oops, I missed one. As well as we had one of our books. We try to represent diversity. So last year we had a book about an urban garden with diverse characters, and so even in Des Moines, our students were excited to see that and to think about planting a school garden. So another of our big picture programs are the Checkout STEM. These are the backpacks that they started as a project that I did with some libraries where we had some students come and do STEM programming. And it really, so as you all know, lots of libraries would like to do STEM programming, but either might not have access to materials or might not have staff or resources to do that. And so we wanted to make a way that we could have STEM available. So in the Checkout STEM kits, there's a fiction and a nonfiction book and a STEM activity, and basically everything that you need for the activity that's connected to the book is in the backpack. And so those get checked out. They're very well used. And the plans for those are available for free on our extension store. So if that's something you don't have at your library and you're interested in, you can definitely reach out to your extension office and then work with them. A lot of our extension offices have gotten small literacy grants from, say, Dollar General or the Rotary Club to put these kits together. Sometimes they are using them with 4-H in their summer camp. So I've seen lots of different examples, and we have, I think, 3 sets of them now. We're working on a 4th. The other thing that's kind of fun about these is our students come up with the idea in their education classes. So we have our students put together the ideas for the kits as a part of their class. And then, of course, we do some refining, but the students really like this activity because it gives them a way to see that, the things that they're learning actually apply and people are going to take it and use it. And of course, kids like to do anything that's, college kids from Iowa State, they think that's cool. So at the community level, we have literacy classes that are geared towards parents that can be hosted at the library and often are. We have, so I'm going to give some examples of each of these. Small Talk is a project that started as a research project, partnership with myself and Ames Public Library. Whoops. And it's a 10-week class that parents take where they learn about the importance of talking and reading with their children. And they actually do weekly recordings with a digital language processor. And that gives us the amount of words and conversational turns that they have done with their child. They also report on book reading. You can see here how many they report, how many minutes they read. And the idea is that over time, they see growth in their conversations with their child, and we see consistent reading. When we started this project, it was a deliberate choice on my part to partner with libraries because we wanted parents to have that habit of getting into libraries from the very beginning. So during COVID, we went to a virtual format for this program. And we found that the virtual format is still effective. It's not quite as effective as the in-person, but because we had to provide childcare and snacks, the convenience of the virtual was a big advantage. And, for both people giving the program and for the parents, who have small children. You can see in this picture here, this baby's got his little vest on. So that's what it looks like, his vest with the little recorder in the pocket. And it doesn't look very noticeable. So most people don't notice when they're out and about. Another program we have is Raising School-Ready Readers. And this is for parents of preschoolers. And it's really about the pre-literacy skills that kids will need to be successful in school. So parents do like a 20-minute video-based learning session. And then we have interactive stations set up where they learn about the areas of literacy. And it's always really fun, parents and kids doing that together. Also during COVID, we needed something for families because we couldn't do Raising School-Ready Readers in person. So we developed our bookshelf, which is a virtual parent class on dialogic reading. So this is kind of nice if, so parents don't necessarily have to have their child with them to do this class, but they learn about dialogic reading and book sharing, and they get a book every week and a reading guide. And this is also available in Spanish. These are our topics. And then we actually are adding topics where we have another module on building resilience with storybooks, on social emotional, reading books about social emotional topics with children. And then we have a book about financial literacy that we just added. So then now we're at the top of the pyramid in that targeted level. And so when we're talking about targeted programs, that's where we are trying to reach families for whom English is not their first language. And so for our bookshelf and Small Talk, both of those are available in Spanish. And we have a great partnership with Marshalltown Library. And we were able to do a group with, there were some parents in Perry, some parents in Marshalltown, and some parents in Des Moines. Basically, those three counties worked together to have a group of parents doing Small Talk in Spanish. And the same with our bookshelf. We have our facilitators who are bilingual will work with other counties. So there might be a county that has parents who would like to take this, but they don't necessarily have an extension person who's bilingual. We can do some partnering because it's virtual to deliver programs like this. And then the last thing I'll talk about is a fun project that I'm doing with Mr. Z as he goes by in Boone. That's called Little Engine. This is a research project. We're in the pilot phase right now. So again, we had an idea and then COVID happened. And so we did a pivot. But Little Engines is, again, for parents of preschoolers. And we have a program that is on the Beanstack platform, which many of you probably have or have heard of. So we have videos that we ask folks in the community to do about parent engagement. And then we ask them to share a story and come up with an activity. And then those books and activities are packets that parents can pick up. But the videos and the directions for the activities are on Beanstack, and they sort of complete those as challenges. And so you can see here some of the badges that we have. So Learn Through Nature, we did with the county conservation. So Boone County Conservation. Learning Through STEM is me talking about reading books about STEM. We had Iowa PBS doing a video. So different, we're We just partnered with 0 to 3, so we're adding a mathematical badge as well. We are replicating this project in Nevada right now, and once we plan to recruit a couple more libraries for our pilot, and then create a toolkit so other libraries can take and do this too. That's something that we are working on, so that's a lot of fun. So just a sampling of the programs that we had. I think we still have time for, I'm looking for my stop share. The red of my stop share was blending into the red of the background, and I couldn't find it. Here it is.
We've had a few questions come in, and I'll just start with those from the top. Let me pull those up here just a second here. The first one is, why do some county extension offer certain programs and others do not?
Well, and I can start with that one. As we said, we have 100 county offices. They are all have different tax base. They have taxing authority locally. You have some counties that have more resources than others that may limit them. You have those 9 elected council members may prioritize other programs over another. And so that's a couple of the reasons. One way, and this may get to some of your other questions, if you remember that map where I talked about regional directors that may be managing 4 counties, it could be that perhaps the county you're in doesn't have a babysitting class or offering one of these reading programs. There may be one in a neighboring county that the regional director is aware of that could help foster that partnership and to try to get it into your county.
Which answers the next follow-up question to that is, can we cross county borders, or do we have to stay in our county? And from what you just said, yes, you can reach out to another
Absolutely.
Extension. Okay. Do you recommend, is it best for people to go through their own extension office to request that other program that's not offered there, or should they just go ahead and cross the border themselves?
Yeah, check there first, and if they get turned down, then yes, ask to speak to either the regional director, or perhaps if it's a reading program, maybe it's the human sciences specialist that covers those counties.
Okay.
And that's somebody that would work more closely with Connie that may be able to help make that connection.
Great. A lot of public libraries have started seed libraries, and I'm going to kind of assume that you're familiar with what that concept is. No? Okay. It's where they get heirloom seeds and they share them. People come and take them out, plant them, bring some seeds back to the library. One of the libraries is wondering if you would offer any kind of resource or help with that type of program.
Good question. And I can't speak for everybody. So start locally. One place where we may be able to help is additional resources on how to nurture seeds, or the kind of the how to grow it once you get home. Would be one. I do
and
know
probably I was going to say, and probably how to use that vegetable
Yeah.
once you grow it and then you pick it and you go, what do I do with this thing now?
Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. I do know one thing that somewhat related around pollinators is our 4-H youth program has a butterfly pollinator kit, right? A set of seeds in a little peat pot that they will send out to people. And it's this time of year, usually in February, they talk about either putting them outside or putting them in the refrigerator to season those seeds. So there are some related examples, perhaps.
Mara says she had a master gardener that helped learning about how to save seeds. And I would say that I believe you're probably like my home state of Indiana, that every county also has a county horticulturist that can probably be contacted for seed.
They can connect you with with a horticulturist. Not every county would have one.
Okay.
And not every county has master gardeners, but there may be some in the neighboring communities as well.
Right. I just wanted to point this out, that somebody heard Dr. Beecher say, if we want kids to be readers, we need adults to be readers too, and commented, that needs to be a meme. So great quote there. Somebody's asking for the link to request the books for Read Across Iowa, and I believe we've put that in the chat. And Sam, I'm pretty sure that when we post the recordings and the slides and that type of thing, we can have those kinds of links available there as well.
Sure, we can. I will also say I was not I was a little bit multitasking, and I think there were some links that got sent only to hosts and panelists. So let me kind of scroll back through and make sure that those get sent out to everyone.
Okay, thank you. A question, are the backpacks, those STEM backpacks, open to any library?
Yes. So here's I just put in the link to request the kit. We still do have kits available. So feel free to go there and request a kit, or if you have teacher friends that you want to let know about that opportunity. And then I also put in the chat the link to the extension store where we have the materials. So the backpack, we have the materials and the plans available for free on the extension store. So you can download the guides. They're all there for you. And then generally, it just depends on your budget. And as you all know, across the state, people have very different budgets. I will say we've had a lot of success with, again, small community grants. And generally, there's somebody in the extension office that can help you. We've had lots of really successful partnerships where people work together and got a small grant to put together a set of kits. When we did our pilot, I think we probably made up 4 or 5 of each kit, and say there were 6 or 7 kits in that set. So, you could get a decent amount with a budget of 500, for example. So, you might not have it sitting around, but we kind of find organizations like giving grants for concrete things like books and STEM materials. Mm-hmm. That's something that we've had a lot of success with.
I believe read across America specifically, I think the Farm Bureau is a supporter of that one. And so your local Farm Bureau may be willing to help locally. I think they buy a set for schools, but you could approach them about the library as well.
Yeah. And we've had libraries request Read Across Iowa kits, so feel free to do that.
We just had a presentation in the last hour about county, all the librarians in a county partnering and writing grants together. And this sounds like an ideal way for all of the libraries in a particular county to get the resources for all of them. And this question was later, but it ties in with what we're talking about now. In general, what are the costs associated with library and extension partnerships? If I want my county extension educator to come out and do a program, or I want somebody from the extension food science program to come out and do a program at my library, is there a cost for that type of thing?
And the answer in extension always is it depends. And again, part of it depends on the resources available locally in that county and the skill set of those individuals. There are some programs that we train the trainer, so we train the local person who can deliver those. In other cases, it's something that our specialists deliver, and that they may be covering 8 or 10 counties, and there may be a charge for that. And so you'll just have to ask. It depends on the program and, like I said, the local resources. Back just a minute on the Connie mentioned grants. I'll put in a shameless plug for our community development team who does a grant writing 101 workshop. And so if that is something a community or a library is interested in pursuing, there is a workshop on how to do that more effectively.
And while we're doing shameless plug, I have to tie in that the state library has purchased the Foundation Directory Online database for all of our public libraries. So all of you have access to this database where basically you put in who you are, what project you're going to need funding for, how much you need, and it will spit out a list of potential grantors. So it sounds like a win-win partnership there. I just wanted to comment, Dr. Lawrence, you mentioned that so many people think of extension as, oh, it's just for those farmers. It's just agriculture, maybe how to work on a tractor engine, but it is so much more. And as I said at the get-go, I can't say enough good things about extension. All 6 of my kids participated in 4-H. At least half of them ended up in career fields that were related to things they had learned in 4-H. And I just wanted to mention some of the things about 4-H that is through extension. That's just not what you would think of when you think of ag kind of stuff. There's a robotics club, speech and debate, creative writing, electricity, small engines, child development, forestry, gardening, all kinds of food science. It's something for everybody, no matter if you're in a rural community or a larger community, more urban area. Good programs coming out of extension.
Well, and thank you for that. That's a great plug. I think the other thing I would add is, again, traditionally you think of the club. My kids are in 4-H and they have volunteer leaders and they're in from the time they're 8 to 18. But probably 2/3 of the youth we reach are in after school programs or day camps or in partnerships with libraries and schools and so on, that are not lifetime commitments, but are great learning opportunities.
That's what I was going to say too. You do not have to be in a club to participate in 4-H, and a lot of the county staff will come to the library to do those programs with you.
Somebody is attesting to the fact that the grant writing 101 was indeed an informative workshop, exclamation point. I also want to mention something else that could be gleaned from extension, and that's parliamentary procedure. I just know that from my kids being in 4-H, they learn so much about parliamentary procedure, and a lot of our new library trustees sometimes stumble in that area, that it's very foreign to them. And I think I've often referred people to their extension office, because I know at least online in some states, I don't know if Iowa's extension program offices, but there are parliamentary procedure resources. So is that something that the Iowa extension could provide?
Very likely. I don't know all that is out there, but I do know that, yes, how to run effective meetings is a key part of that learning experience, and there is a manual on how to do that.
Okay. And Rosalind over at Knoxville said their extension office is offering 3 sessions on Parkinson's disease in April. So there again, something you might not think of as coming out of extension. It is such a diverse offering of information and resources that's available in all of our counties. And I just think what you do is wonderful. True confessions here. I actually, I was a stay-at-home mom and didn't start my undergrad degree until I was in my 40s. And I started college anticipating that I would become an extension educator. And I started working in a library to help pay for my education, and realized that the youth services librarian did a lot of the same things that the extension educators did, but they didn't have to work nights and weekends. So I went into library science instead. And so now I'm a district consultant and I do work nights and weekends.
Yeah.
The Parkinson's project is an interesting one, because that is the researcher on campus is is working on research about how to improve the speech and conditions of the people with Parkinson, and has partnered with Extension to find groups of people to work with to implement this research and collect data back from it. So it's integrating people right into the research, and it's painless. They're not hooking them up to machines or anything. It's actually a singing class. One of them is that has been shown to help people with Parkinson's.
Interesting. Someone's asking, is there a similar program for Alzheimer's?
We do not. Yeah, we don't have a program for Alzheimer's. We do have a program that's called Powerful Tools for Caregivers. And that is for people who might be caring for individuals, with Alzheimer's or other kinds of chronic diseases. And then also we have a version that's for those who might have children or family members with special needs. So that one is another really good one.
Okay. Well, as we've said, a wealth of information coming out of Extension, all available just by contacting your county Extension office, going online. And again, we will have a lot of these links. Well, here's a good question tying in with links. Is there a complete list of topics offered by Extension?
The simple answer is no. And let me tell you why. We have an internal list that we use with our county councils and staff to share with them. Here's a set of programs to choose from. There's over 480 named programs. And again, on any given year or season, it may not be available, but it's on offered. It's on the catalog. We're in the process of making that more publicly available. You can go to our website and kind of look through and see the broad topics around aging, for example. I know there's a lot of work in that, and they may list specific programs, but it would give you a contact information and the type of work that they are doing.
And I see Dr. Beecher just put in a link to an extension link that will probably take you to some information about that. Someone is suggesting you have a searchable list of topics. I'm sure some librarians could help you with that undertaking.
That's right.
And because these librarians are saying, we want to know all 480 topics and we want to search it. So.
Yeah.
We'll definitely take that back to the leadership group. When you go to that website, you will see at the top, locate a county office, and that's how you find your county office. And then those topic areas that Dr. Lawrence showed earlier, you can find people who have those expertise. And so they can help you find who you're looking for, even as we are working on our searchable list.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. This was a wonderful presentation and a fabulous partnership opportunity for all. Thank you, Dr. Beecher, Dr. Lawrence. Dr. Lawrence, best wishes to you as you undertake a retirement very soon. And we hope to hear more partnerships from our library.